everything right, it was you and me.
Hello everyone, my name is Nayeema and welcome back to my channel, or two if you are new. And today we are talking all about the books that I've DNF'd so far in 2021. So far in 2021, I've DNF'd 9 books, and I'm actually really happy with that number and very surprised because last year when I started booktube and started reading more and more, I would never DNF. I was scared to DNF and I really have no idea why, thinking back on it. And so this year I've been DNFing more and more, and I'm so glad that I started to do that and stop being afraid to DNF, because who wants to spend time reading books that they do not care about and don't like? And I realized in 2021 that there are so many books that I want to love, so many books that I want to read, and so many books that I want to enjoy, so why am I going to waste my time reading a book that I'm hating? This year I've DNF'd 9 books so far. There are some books, there's actually 2 books on here that I could be convinced to give it another go around and try again. But then there are books on here that I'm like, I will never be picking up this book again, which I will tell you guys what those books are. But if there are books on here that you have read and you loved and you think that I would love this book, because I swear you guys know my taste so well, then please let me know. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into all of the books that I have DNF'd so far in 2021. The very first book that I DNF'd in 2021 was Topics of Conversation by Miranda Popke. Really, I have no idea what this was about. I DNF'd it super early on because I was just bored. A works cited page and stuff, and I was like, no way, no way. I'm not really gonna talk about this one because I don't remember anything about it. I think it might be a literary fiction. Found it in a little free library and it was a book of the month. And so I brought it home with me, read it, read 25%, and I did not enjoy it, so I just like completely DNF'd it, gave it away, whatever, it's left my memory. But the next book that I DNF'd was The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. So I read this because my brother picked it for when he picked my TBR, and I think I read up to around 60% of it. I was completely bored by this. I actually have a vlog up with me reading this book. I'm starting to think that Jasmine Guillory is just not for me. I've never really heard good things about her books besides a few select people who like love her, but personally I think she's not for me. This one is about this girl who goes to a baseball game with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend ends up proposing to her and she says no. She doesn't really love him. He can never say her name right and spell her name right. On the proposal, on the big jumbotron, her name is spelled wrong, super self-centered, and she's like, no, I don't want to marry you, whatever. And so she's instantly like the villain. Everybody around her is like booing at her. The cameras are trying to capture her attention. A brother and sister are at the game watching this all go down, and they're like, wow, that poor girl. So they go over to her and act like they know her and invite to sit down with them. And so she's super grateful that they help her evade the crowd and all of that. So give her a ride back home because boyfriend have left, and she starts to become friends with the guy who helped her out. They're going to dinners together and she kind of uses them as a rebound, and they sleep together. And I was very bored while reading this. I thought it was really drawn out. I just didn't like it at all. I DNF'd it around 60%. I just think that Jasmine Guillory's writing style is not for me at all. I do not like the way that she decides to tell stories, and that's fine. I DNF'd this book. I know people love this book, and this is one that I probably won't give another chance because I have now read, I think, another 2 more Jasmine Guillory's, and I just haven't liked them. So I do have a vlog up of me reading that, so if you want to know more, that vlog will be linked down below. The next book that I DNF'd, I can actually be convinced to give this another try. So I DNF'd The Initiation by Nikki Sloan, and my friend Reagan has been telling me that it's so good and that I need to give it another chance. I personally cannot get with the hero. The hero I found to be very whiny. I found him to be a baby. I hate when a guy who is supposed to be portrayed as super strong and powerful and owns people, but they're scared of his own shadow, and he was just really scared of his father, and I did not like that. And Reagan was like, no, he's trying to protect her and not show his father that he actually cares about her. I'm like, really? Like, no, you don't do that. Like, I personally don't like that. If he's going to protect her, then he needs to show how much he loves her and cares for her. And there was just some scenes that made me think that he was not all the way there. I thought he was maybe like a sociopath and I just didn't like his vibe. I didn't like really the writing style. I have not had much luck with Nikki Sloan. I do want to give her another chance, but this book was just bad. I buddy read this with Heather and Steph from the Novelty, and then some other friends in the book community, and we all were just like, what the heck? Like, I do want to give this another try though, because this is one of the things that this is one of the books that I just know I would love last year or the year before. Like, I know I would eat it up, but there's just something about a hero who like, he cares about her and you can tell that, but like, he just won't show that to anyone else. He's gonna throw her on the ground when the father walks in the room. Like, it's just, I was not enjoying this. I thought it was so weird, so boring. And yeah, this one is Secret Society-esque. I can be convinced to give it another try though. I can, because when there's hype around a book, I have to love it. I want to love it. So I could be convinced. I ended up DNFing this one around chapter 11. I was bored and not in the mood is what I said on Goodreads. The next book that I DNF'd was What He Doesn't Know by Candy Steiner. I DNF'd this at 25% because I was completely bored and it was just not what I needed right then. You guys know I go through my moods with dark romances and rom-coms and having to switch it up. This one I found to be really, really boring. I did not, and I know people love this. It's supposed to be super emotional. It's about this girl who's like in a marriage with this guy. She's a teacher, and then a new teacher starts to work at her school and she has to show him around, and she actually knew him when she was younger. She had a big crush on him. They were neighbors, and yeah, but she's married. So there's like some type of cheating thing about to happen. I didn't make it that far, but I did not really enjoy this book at all. I found that the heroine was, I just can't deal with the heroine who's like, oh, I shouldn't, but I'm going to, and that'd be like the entire story. I just found this so boring. I was not in the mood for something deep and profound and emotional, and it just really was not my cup of tea. So I DNF'd it. I can be convinced to give this another try because this does seem like something I would like when I'm in the mood for it. So if you've read this book and you really enjoyed it, let me know. Maybe I'll give it another try, but I was bored. The next book that I DNF'd was Buttons and Lace by Penelope Sky. And my initial reaction to this book was that the writing was horrible. I have never read a book with such horrible writing before. Like, it was so bad right off the bat. It was horrible. So the heroine, her husband and her have not been really on the best of terms. He's been acting weird. He's been getting drunk during the day, and she has just been not enjoying her life. And so literally we just met this girl and she's like, we're not even having sex anymore. We're not even having sex anymore. We're not even having sex anymore. Like, girl, that's not what you say. That's not what you say. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's not what you say when you're, okay, if this girl was telling the story, she just says that right off the bat. Like, no, we need to get to like the meat and potatoes of why it's not working out that way. But like, literally, I kid you not, on the very first like few pages, she's like, yeah, I'm done with him. We don't even have sex anymore. And so basically what happens is, this guy knocks on the door. He's like, is your husband home? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, tell him he needs to pay us back, otherwise, or else, ... And she's like, what? That was weird. Like, why does my husband need to pay her back? She never asked the mans. Who's this guy who's knocking on the door and saying you need to pay us back, otherwise, or else, you know? And she just completely evades her mind. And so basically her husband is like, oh, let's go on a trip, and They go on a trip. And she ends up getting taken or something like that. I DNF'd it right away. I could not deal. The writing was horrible. It was so uncalled for. We didn't even know these characters, and she's like, we're not even having sex anymore. And so yeah, it's a captive romance. I just could not stand. I could not deal. I thought it was so boring, and she might end up with someone who like abuses her. I don't know. I don't want to like speak false truths about this book, but that's what I know about the book, and I was not feeling it. So the next book that I DNF'd was The Fixer by Jessica Gaziella. I DNF'd this around 50%, and I read it because my friend Heather from Hia Booktubes, she is Jessica Gaziella's biggest fan, and I'm like, okay, so I've been friends with Heather for like more than a year now, and I still haven't read her favorite author. That's a problem. So I decided to start with The Fixer. Jessica Gaziella has like a huge backlist. I thought The Fixer would be just like a good place to start. It was the first book in her professional series, and I was like, okay, I hear so many good things about it, I'm going in. I DNF'd this around 50% because I just could not get into this. This is another book that you could convince me to give another try. I just found this to be super simple, super, here it is. I just couldn't get into it. I thought it was pretty boring, quite honestly. But I do want to give Jessica Gaziella another try and this book another try because I was curious. This book follows this girl and she has a stalker. She has a stalker who's been stalking her for months now, or maybe even a year, and she feels like it's escalating. She feels like something bad is going to happen. She has a bad feeling. So she goes to, I think, it's called like the professionals, I don't know. She goes to like this company where basically there's a bunch of men there and they take care of the problems. They either help up a murder, they either help with something. They basically are like the fixers. They make people's problems go away. And so she goes there and they're like, oh, sorry, we can't help you, we can't help you. And so the receptionist actually ends up telling the hero, like, listen, I have a bad feeling about her, go to her house and check on her. And he's like, yeah. And so he goes there. The heroine has killed the man who's been stalking her. And he's like, well, now this is a murder case, so now we have to help you. And so they help her out. She has like a little bit of trauma over what happened. He feels for her and he wants to help her out and get her life back together. And also there's like another threat that she is facing. And I just found it really boring. I found it super dry, super here it is, super clear cut. And I don't exactly always love that. Sometimes I can really appreciate that in a story. But with this one, I was bored. I couldn't get into it. I could be convinced to read this again. So if you've read The Fixer and you think I'd like it, please let me know. I know Heather's gonna be like, give it another try. But the funny thing is, I did tell Heather that I was not enjoying this book and she was like, yeah, I don't see you really liking Jessica Gaziella. And I was like, yeah, probably not. I just think it's I feel like it's too mature for me, you know? I don't know. So the next book that I DNF'd was The Monster by L.J. Shen, and this is book 3 in the Boston Belle series. And you guys know that I love L.J. Shen. I loved her. I love her books. I love the Boston Belle series. And so when I got the arc for The Monster, I was so pumped. But this is one of the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. Like, I had to DNF it. I DNF'd it around 35% and it pained me to do it. Like, I couldn't do it. So this really pained me to do it because I did get an arc for this book. The beginning had me. We were following Sam when he was younger. We find out how he ended up with the Brennans, who his parents are, and I was just really, who his birth parents were, and I was really into it. I thought, okay, exactly, like, I already love the hero, like, we got his backstory. After that backstory, I could not enjoy this book at all. So a little after the flashback, I couldn't even stay on my Kindle app anymore. I had to constantly leave it. I was like, okay, I'm bored. Okay, this is horrible. It pained me to read, so I just kept leaving that Kindle app. I thought this book made no sense. I thought it made 0 sense at all. So we have Aisling, we've seen her in the other books in the Boston Belle series, and then we have Sam, who we've actually met in the Sparrow, is it Sparrow? And who we've met in Sparrow. And so what happens is it's this huge unrequited love situation. Aisling loves Sam. Oh gosh, guys, I'm gonna, like, it was horrible. Aisling loves Sam, but Sam didn't like Aisling. He thought he was a bad person. He thought Aisling was too good, and Aisling is harboring this huge secret, but Sam wants to know the secret. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for Aisling. I was so embarrassed. Like, the secondhand embarrassment was so real. I saw her just like, she kept doing things to get his attention, and then, wow, this book was just horrible. It was horrible. I had to DNF it around 35%. Do I want to read the last one? I just know I'm not gonna like that. I feel like L.J. Shen has been recycling her characters for a long time now. Every single character is a carbon copy of Amelia and Vicious, who I love so dearly, but now it's kind of gotten too much. I really think she needs to just slow down with her releases because she, like, throws them out like bam, bam, bam. And so I feel like she's not really taking the time and the care with her books and her characters, and I feel like they're just all so similar. But then they're so similar, but then they just progressively get worse and worse and worse. Horrible. I told everyone that I know not to read it. You're gonna be wasting your time. And yeah, it pains me because, like, I am starting to question my taste with her other books, because I used to love her other books. I used to love and eat up every single other one of her books, but that was before I started reading, like, other romances. So I'm like, was the other ones good? I don't know. The next book that I DNF'd was Heathens by Nicole Farina. I DNF'd this at 25%, and this was simply because I could not get into it. This aesthetic was very witchy, small town vibes, and I just feel like that this would be amazing to read in the fall, not really in the dead of summer where I'm sweating my ass off. So I DNF'd this around 25%. I do have intentions to go back to this book because my friend Alicia thinks I'd love it. Tons of people told me that they think I would love this book, and I agree. This does seem like my vibe, but it's just not my vibe right now. I'm in the summer mood. So I do want to read this again, and yeah, but sadly I just couldn't get into it. I thought that the world was too complicated for me. I do like witches and I do like witchcraft, and I like how there's like two sides to this town. Basically this book follows this girl, and she's moving to a small town with her grandfather. Her whole family has kind of like lived there, but some of them have died, some of them have moved away. And so when this girl's grandmother died, she starts getting letters from her grandfather saying like, I need your help, I'm very sick. So she moves to this town to live with the grandfather and take care of him. Basically it's just like small town vibes. She meets this guy there who people tell her to stay away from, and he's like part of like a witchy cult type of thing. I really don't remember much about this book, but I DNF'd it. I do have intentions of going back to it, and I am excited because the vibes were really good, but just not then in my life, you know? The last book that I DNF'd so far in 2021 is 𝓫𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪 by 𝓵𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪, and I DNF'd this around 35%. 35% doesn't seem like a lot, but it was so much. This book was so long-winded, and for what? Like, there was no reason for this book to be this breathy and so long and so dense. Like, it was so hard for me to enjoy this book. So I started buddy reading this with Reagan. The description and the synopsis did not give much, so we were like, oh, it'd be kind of fun to go in blind. Like, yes, exactly. So what we know when going into this book is we have this girl, and her mother dies, and her mother and her father were best friends with this guy, and the three of them were best friends. And so when the mom died, he kind of has stepped up and starts helping his best friend, who's the father of that girl. And so this girl, you probably guessed it, she starts to develop a crush on this guy. She gets into drugs, is just so infatuated with him, and things happen in the story. This book is very dark. I will say that the author is so persistent on nothing being told about this book. She was like, you cannot know anything going in, just go in blind. And I'm like, for what? It was so boring. It was so boring, so bad. I did not enjoy it. I will say that I feel like the majority would really like this book, because no, I didn't finish it, but then Reagan told me what happened, and this is really wild. Really wild. So if you kind of like forbidden love, not supposed to be together, tenfold, you would really enjoy this book. I truly believe that. But it was too long-winded for me, and I was just not into it the entire time. But I feel like the majority would really enjoy this book, because there are some huge plot twists, major twists and turns, and yeah, this is one that I know that I'll never go back to. But I think that the majority would really enjoy this book. You're more like wild with your reading. There's some people who are super straight-laced with the reading, and this was just too much for them. I know that for a fact. Like, Reagan did not love this book. For me, I just can't deal with a long-winded story. I can't when I'm not in the mood for it. So I DNF'd this one around 35%, which is actually a lot. So those were the 9 books that I've DNF'd so far in 2021. I'll probably DNF more and more as the year goes on. These are books that I like put my foot down and was like, no way. There are other books that I started reading and I have intentions to going back to, so I didn't fully DNF them, but these were the ones that I've like DNF'd, never gonna pick up again unless I'm convinced and want to give it another try. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a big like and a comment down below, and then also subscribe so you never miss another upload from me. And then also tell me books that you've DNF'd so far, or if you've read any of the books that I talked about today and think I should give them another try, because I am open to it, except for the ones I told you guys that like no way, like there's no way I'm going back. And that's like The Monster, 𝓫𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪. No, never. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!
If I got one thing right, it was you and me.